Good day and welcome, America and beyond. I'm Tom Donahue for Tom Donahue Reports, Patriotism in Action, Putting America First, New World Order Dead Last. Several articles I want to address or approach, and I think that they may be of interest to you. But remember, I'm not here to cater or coddle or spoon feed, and I'm not here to win a popularity contest. So there might be times you say, boy, I wish you would cover X, Y, or Z, and there are plenty of programs and there are plenty of places that you can go. But I want to start off with something that I think is vitally important, and I say vitally important because of the constraints and the controls that have been placed upon independent candidates. That's right, those that are considered alternative candidates. They're not part of the two-party controlled system, at least for the most part. And this is a story that I don't really hear anybody talking about. Quite frankly, unless I missed it, I have not heard this discussed anywhere in traditional mainstream talk radio, which I didn't expect, nor even in the alternative, because you know what? There are so many in the alternative media that say, oh, don't vote. Don't talk about voting or elections or politics or debates. Okay, well then just sit on the sidelines, be on the outside looking in, and don't have anything in common with the common folks. But the common citizen within this country, they are considering voting. Not all, but many will vote. And so why not interact and engage with these people? Otherwise, I think you are coming from a position of arrogance. Well, actually, quite frankly, stupidity. Ignorance would be a better term. And so if you are this haughty-taughty and above the fray, and you know more, and it's fine if you decide, okay, I don't have a problem with someone not voting, especially if they feel that they have either no options or limited options, and they're not voting lesser of evils. But if you were in the state of Nevada, although I know it's considered Sin City, but when it comes to politics, guess what? You can vote for none of the above. And in many states, you'll be able to vote for an independent candidate. It may not be someone you totally agree with. It may not even be someone that you feel has even one iota of a chance of winning. But it's not always about winning. And it's sometimes being part of the game or playing the game, but doing it straight up, doing it fairly, doing it with good conscience. And that is my sense and sensibility as it pertains to this. Now, this story is a Politico story, and it was picked up by some other publications, and it was published on Monday, October 15th, 2012. And the headline reads, GOP worries Johnson, meaning Gary Johnson, former governor of the great state of New Mexico, GOP worries Johnson could be election spoiler. Okay, it's okay to worry. It's okay to have concerns. And it's okay to try to get out the vote. And maybe even it's okay to not discourage a vote, but maybe dissuade or, in fact, persuade those independents trending that way, or libertarians, or disgruntled folks in the GOP, in particular, many that felt shunned as Ron Paul supporters. But no, let me just read verbatim what this article has to say. Republican operatives appear to be worried about the slow rise of Libertarian presidential nominee Gary Johnson, who is now on the ballot in every state except Michigan and Oklahoma. That's 48. And could pose a threat to a Mitt Romney victory. According to the New York Times, the former two-term Republican governor from the great state, well, I say great state, of New Mexico, angered many in his old party last year when he challenged Romney and others for the GOP nomination, advocating issues such as the legalization of marijuana and a 43% cut in Pentagon spending. He failed to gain traction then, but the Times reports some Republicans view him now as their version of Ralph Nader, the Green Party candidate whose relatively modest support cut into Al Gore's 2000 vote, arguably enough to help hand the decisive states of Ohio and Florida to George W. Bush. As the race tightens between Republican nominee Romney and President Obama, some are voicing concern that he could pull the independent and undecided votes away from Romney. The Republican National Committee chairman still calls Johnson a non-factor in the campaign, but Pennsylvania Chairman Robert Gleason, who tried and failed, listen to this, who tried and failed to keep Gary Johnson off the ballot, that's right here in the great state of Pennsylvania. Try to keep him off the ballot. Warns that ignoring Johnson could spell trouble. This election will be close. If you remember, Bush lost by only something like 143,000 votes in 2004. Well, he's talking about in the state of Pennsylvania. Concerns about Johnson turning into a spoiler has kept Romney's campaign and Republicans busy monitoring his efforts and engaging in what the Times describes as a surveillance operation of sorts. Keeping an eye, a watchful eye, surveillance. And in Pennsylvania, they are admitting that essentially they went beyond surveillance, but sabotage. That's right. Doing all they could to keep him off the ballot. In Pennsylvania, Republicans even hired a former FBI agent to investigate petition signatures in an effort to derail the drive to put Johnson on the ballot in the state. Excuse me? Let me try this one more time. I read this before, but you may be gone, what I just said, excuse me, or hello, what? Republicans in the state of Pennsylvania even hired a former FBI agent to investigate these petition signatures. A court settled that matter just last week, ordering his name to be listed as a presidential candidate along with Romney and Obama. In Michigan, Republicans were just as tough as the Keystone State colleagues. Election officials there disqualified Johnson for the ballot because his paperwork, according to the Times, was filed 3 minutes past the deadline. Excuse me, hello? What? Yeah. Paperwork was filed 3 minutes past the deadline. That means you cannot vote for your candidate of choice, but possibly. That's the Libertarian, former Republican. Wow. Johnson's efforts to be taken seriously are being helped by former Republican political consultant Roger Stone. He was a former aide to Richard Nixon and Ronald Reagan, who left the party earlier this year because of its positions on social policy and other issues. Stone, according to the Times, has become so upset at Republican efforts to shut down Johnson's campaign that he vowed in an email last month that Republican blood will run in the streets by the time I'm done. Surveillance, sabotage, besides all the electoral obstacles to become ballot eligible. This is the corporate control parties. This is a guy that was a two-term Republican governor, someone that was a Republican nominee, or at least challenging for the nomination, a candidate. And because he's ran, or is running currently, as the Libertarian candidate, and they see him as a threat that could peel away some votes from the disgruntled, And this leads me to a minute or two here on Ron Paul. What's happened to the Romney people not reaching out and trying to appeal to the Ron Paul supporters and followers? And another group that seems to be ignored, and I'll give you, well, actually, I'll give you two more. Because you have the Donald Trump folks, but there's barely a mention of Donald Trump. And how about Ross Perot, the Reform candidate? Remember, he was the Reform Party candidate. Maybe there were some other names they used too, but that was the first business guy. Although he didn't run as part of the established parties, he created his own party. The people created it, whatever. Well, he's endorsed Romney. Oh, and I'll give you another one that's even more pervasive and ubiquitous: the Tea Party. Why is there no mention of the Tea Party? And I'll go even further on this story, because I do have a story right here among my little pop-ups here. If I can bring it up here in just a moment. Here we go. This story. Oh no, wait a minute. I'm sorry. This story was from Politico. Let me see if I can source the other one for you. Because I received this from Newsmax, and I did not see it on Drudge. But yeah, this was actually a Newsmax story, and they did quote the New York Times. So again, the first story that was entitled "GOP Worries Johnson Could Be an Election Spoiler," that was a story that originated from Newsmax. Okay, so the Politico story is what I'm about to discuss. And it says, tight race, solution, avoid the Tea Party label on the stump. Do you know how many that were embracing, that said that they were a part of, that they joined caucuses regarding the Tea Party at large? And now they either there's no mention, or they're in complete denial. They're disassociating themselves from the Tea Party. And what did I tell you a couple years ago? I told you that not only was the Tea Party, at least in large part, but not entirely, was set up by the Republican Party. And it was a way to bring in the disgruntled and the disaffected and those that feel disenfranchised from the Republican Party. And they felt like, oh, we're going to take this over. Yeah, Dick Armey and Tea Party Express. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the Tea Party Nation. Yeah, right. Tea Party Patriots. There are some good people. A lot of folks that were grassroots. I get it. But they had no effect on the nominee, meaning the Republican Party's nominee. They've had almost no effect, at least no positive effect that I can point to, in the build-up here, Obama versus Romney. Now, you can say that because they feel they have nowhere else to go, they'll go with Romney. Well, that's probably true. But some will sit it out. Some may actually cast a protest vote or go to some alternative independent party. So don't be surprised there. But if Romney were smart, rather than trying to moderate his views and trying to shift and kind of he kind of worms and wiggles, so you got this shifting and sliding and flip flopping and reversals. I call it the Romney reversal. And so he continues to soften his positions and image. Remember, he said he was a severe conservative. Was there? I don't hear anything that sounds severe. Not at all. Matter of fact, he seems to be moderating on whether it's gun rights, whether it be on abortion, whether it be immigration, taxation, the Supreme Court, women's rights and those issues that that put family and right to life first and foremost. So there's a lot of social conservative issues that he made the rounds, including CPAC, and there's very little of that being talked about from his campaign. So Mr. Etch-a-Sketch and Mr. Position Reversal, if he really was like a Reagan-like Republican, well, first of all, he'd be likable and approachable. He's not. He's unapproachable, unlikable, and he certainly lacks credibility. One thing you say about Obama, essentially, he has a big government. I'm trying to think of the right word I want to use. Approach to things, and it's more of a socialist, communist approach. And that's just the way he works, And so he's pretty consistent in the fact that what his plans and his positions and his platform is, and take it or leave it. But if Romney were smart, and okay, so he used trickle down government. Okay, great. So he got a couple little liners in there. Some people say it wasn't Savage's original catchphrase, but I think it was. But whatever. But he should be appealing to the best of his ability to the Ron Paul people. He should be appealing to even the libertarians. I'm not saying change your positions, but at least do an outreach. And he should be talking Tea Party this and Tea Party that. But he's not. And so you got moderate Mitt that wants to tweak things. There's no bold or brazen programs. There's nothing here revolutionary or radical. There's nothing here that's severe. And I talked in the last program how Mitt Romney missed on a lot of things, and there were a lot of mishaps and missteps. Besides the fact he was socially awkward, overly, I guess you could say, extremely aggressive and inappropriate in the debate with Obama. So we now have them running away from the Tea Party. That's right. So stifle the libertarian and put the blame on someone like Gary Johnson or Virgil Goode, the Constitution Party, and those of Ron Paul people that won't get behind the party. Yeah, how dare you put principle over party? So instead of building a truly limited government, constitutional, conservative, solid base, and be principled in your stance, Mitt Romney is justifying his mandates and his Romney care. He's continuing to soften his position on immigration or reverse his position, and many of the other programs and policy statements. And his tax program, he keeps bringing up the fact that he's just going to lower the rate. And then he has no plan as to how he's going to balance the budget. And he never elaborates on any of his 5-point plan. And just because, and Bain Capital was not a jobs creator. Just because you work in business, and businesses that, it'd be like saying that, well, I'm not going to go there. We'll just, because we're running low on time. Well, we're going to get to this Federal Reserve story on the next edition. And this plot to attack the Federal Reserve in New York City, the New York branch of the Federal Reserve, the most powerful branch. And a suspect thought he had a 1,000-pound bomb, according to authorities. And they're saying it's an act of terror. Well, let me just tell you something. This is going to justify them saying, you're against the Federal Reserve? Remember, we've got the 100-year anniversary coming up here. And you guys are talking about audit and abolish. And it could lead to be something very ominous and onerous. And so beware that you will be a domestic terrorist if you oppose the Federal Reserve System. Well, I'm going to interview G. Edward Griffin, regardless, the creature from Jekyll Island, on the interview. More information, you want to check out the blog, the website, the YouTube channel. communicate with me any and all ways is TomDonahueReports.com. TomDonahueReports.com. Till we meet again, have a great night. Take good care.